My name is Nancy Moore, and I'm, I guess, probably most germane for this group. The first thing I want to say is I'm a senior. The second thing I want to say is that I'm co-chair of the Monona Transit Commission. And the third thing I want to say, first and foremost, is welcome to everybody. So we're going to do a few things this morning, and then we're going to, obviously, part of that is going to give you an opportunity to open up for questions, to answer any questions you may have. The first thing that I want to say, aside from those three things, is that we care very, very deeply for our seniors. All of us do. So this is not at all what has been debated and discussed, is being debated and discussed, and thoroughly thought through by the Transit Commission around transit in Monona has nothing at all to do with not caring about our seniors. In fact, if you were to watch all of the videos of the Transit Commission, there's not a single meeting that goes by where we don't talk about our seniors in all the best ways. We very much value our senior community. The Transit Commission every month, with the help of Mark Hodeker, for those that don't know Mark is not only the acting city administrator, he also happens to be our director of finance, and he is the staff member behind the Transit Commission. Each one of our city committees and commissions and boards has a staff member. And there's not a meeting that goes by where we don't talk about our seniors, and one of the ways we will open up virtually every meeting that we have in the Transit Commission is to look at ridership numbers, and as you know, probably we have surveys on a regular basis. We've been talking with Diane at length over this proposal for close to a year, so it's not something that we're rushing into. We've been debating, discussing for a year. And this is not about just cutting a budget at all. This is about trying to improve service. Today, we're going to focus not on Monona Express, but obviously on Monona Lift. But as it relates to both of those, what I want people to know is, again, that, Madison Metro approached us about a year ago, because they are looking at redesigning their entire system, their routes and everything, to serve with a more regional approach. And part of that discussion obviously related to paratransit, and therefore Monona Lift. And they came to us, and we felt like as a commission we owed it to the city of Monona to give their proposal a serious look, and we've been talking with them and working with them ever since. So again, this isn't something that we certainly have talked to Metro prior to that. It's not something that we sought out per se. It's something that we've been working in partnership around, and we haven't made any decisions. We're here to listen today. So with that, I want to say that there are a couple of, if you didn't see it coming in, there are a couple of things on the back table there, which is a paratransit application, as well as the specifics around paratransit and how it operates. So if you didn't get one of those and you're interested in getting one of those, by all means, go ahead and do that. Yeah. It's not the final meeting. No, this is a public information meeting, but the Transit Commission has not made any decisions of whether it's about the lift or about Monona Express. And we fully, in fact, if we were to implement anything in Monona, the earliest it would be implemented would be January of 2025. No, sorry, 2024. So that's more than a year from now. We don't expect to be making a decision, or we don't. The Transit Commission makes a recommendation ultimately to the City Council, and then the City Council brings it up. But this is definitely not a final anything. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is turn it over to our representatives from Madison Metro to talk specifically about paratransit, and then the second thing I'm going to do is then second thing we'd like to do is take questions that you have, as opposed to comments about whether you think it's good, bad, or indifferent. We'd like to take questions second, and then the third thing is we'll ask those people who signed up, or even if you haven't signed up for that matter, that have signed up on these sheets of paper, any comments that you want to make. We'll take those last after the questions, because chances are some of the questions that might relate to your comments will hopefully be answered in the questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the folks from Madison. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Phil Gadke. I'm an operations manager with Madison Metro, both on the fixed route side and paratransit, our paratransit unit. Kind of what my roles are on fixed route is safety and security, and I oversee the daily operations of our paratransit unit, and I'm pretty passionate about it and how it works. And
I'm Laura Sherrington. I'm the paratransit eligibility coordinator.
So with paratransit service, just to explain a little bit what it is, public transit agencies are required to provide complimentary paratransit service to its fixed route service for individuals that are to access fixed route for whatever reason. So a service area is established around the fixed route that's developed. And in Madison, it is essentially the entire city of Madison. It encompasses the majority of our service area. There's a few little holes here and there over on the other side of the interstate and things that aren't quite there yet, but will soon be. But basically, all in all, the paratransit service is with fixed route. So whenever fixed route is implemented in an area, paratransit carries with it. A few things about it: it's a shared ride service, and it opens up the community of, well, let's say Monona, if this were to move forward, would open up the community into the entire metro service area for riders. The time of day for operation is from the beginning of our service day to the end, so it's the entire metro service day. There's no gaps or unusual breaks in service. Fairly straightforward otherwise. It's a curb to curb or door to door service similar to a taxi. You make your ride reservations the day before, and our service is provided by 3 contractors in the area that we oversee directly. All ride reservations and schedules and everything are done by Metro staff and then divvied out to our contractors the day before, so they know what their service is going to be the next day. And things work fairly well in that area. Other than that, I mean, we're going to be happy to answer any of your questions moving forward about paratransit, about the eligibility process and how that works. Any operational questions you may have, fares. Our cash fare is $3.25 per ride. There's also some ticket options to make it easier, so you don't necessarily have to pay cash every time. You can purchase little booklets of tickets for rides. All of our rules, riding rules that are established with our fixed route service carry over to paratransit service as well. So there's an entire group of rules that really are established and nice for our riders to ensure safety and security measures. Other than that, I think we're here for questions.
Can you explain how to
I'm done.
qualify for the paratransit?
Yeah, Laura, you want to talk about eligibility?
Um, So our eligibility process is that the individual would have to fill out an application. The application is located on our website. Otherwise, we can also mail one to the individual. And once the completed application is received, we would reach out to schedule an in-person assessment process. And the in-person assessment is about a half an hour visit. And we can provide transportation to the assessment as long as the individual resides within our service area. And then after that in-person assessment, a determination would be made, and then we would notify the individual by mail.
How long does that last?
So the eligibility process we have within 21 days at the most, but usually it takes within a couple of days to make a determination. But I think what you were getting at, Mark, is how long it lasts.
Right.
So we have a couple of different types of eligibility. So we have our temporary eligibility, which can be anywhere from a month to a couple of years. And then we also have our permanent eligibility, which is valid for 3 years. And everybody who is permanent has the same eligibility end date. So they would all renew around that same eligibility end date.
What's the difference between temporary and permanent?
So temporary would just mean that they would have it for, it might be like a brief period of time, like let's say maybe they had an upcoming surgery coming up and wouldn't be able to drive to that surgery, or maybe they broke a leg or something. We can provide temporary eligibility to assist them getting to and from medical appointments and things in the community. And then our permanent is just ongoing.
I see your service hours on here. Are you saying weekdays 5:30 a.m. to midnight? So is that hourly then? Or how often do the buses come?
So Phil, you could probably answer in regards to fixed route, but for paratransit, that's what our full service area is. So we have the service available from 5:30 until midnight for the person, to transport the person.
So what determines how often you come in? Just
So it's a shared ride service, so everything would be pre-scheduled a day before. And then along the way to your destination, the driver would pick up and drop off other passengers as they're heading that way.
So if let's say you had you wanted to go to Westtown Mall on a Wednesday to do some shopping or for whatever reason, you call up on Tuesday, schedule your ride for 9 a.m. because you want to be at Westtown by 10 or whatever. Call up, schedule your ride for 9 a.m. The bus arrives at 9 a.m., takes you to Westtown, and you'd also schedule your return ride, when you plan to be done at Westtown, 2:30 in the afternoon, you schedule the ride for that time, the bus will arrive, take you back.
And these are small buses, they're not the big metro buses. Right?
Yeah. Anybody around Madison, if you've seen the Badger bus, cutaway vehicles, they're small vans. They're white, they say Badger bus on them. A lot of those vehicles, that's our paratransit service running. Just doesn't say Madison Metro on the side. They're Badger bus vehicles. Is one of our main contractors. So that's the type of vehicle that. There are some other types. We have a new contractor coming in that has some sedans for ambulatory people, and smaller minivans and things. But most of our service is provided in a cutaway type vehicle.
Looks like there's 2 questions.
So that's going to be in addition to the big bus?
Yes.
And the big bus runs how often?
It hasn't been officially determined yet, but we're looking at around 6:30 to
But in the past meetings, it's every hour, is that accurate?
every hour we come through, yes.
Correct.
Correct.
So just for clarity, you're saying a big bus comes through this route?
Takes Owen Road to Maywood to Nichols and then Winnequa back up.
Yes, that's,
Every
hour.
that's the fixed route.
And then you've got a paratransit that'll come in on demand or?
Correct.
request?
On demand is a perfect term
Okay.
for paratransit.
Right, and that, again, that route that you're looking at hasn't been finalized. It was still a work in progress, but that was the originally proposed route precisely because we wanted to make sure that that bus was, that regular bus, if you will, not the regular Metro bus, was available for those people who might like expanded service hours or expanded service territory, just as important. But don't need paratransit or want paratransit. They just want to be able to get on a regular Madison bus route.
Just to clarify, the fixed route will take place of the Monona Express,
Right.
and the paratransit will take the place of the lift. So that's what.
But I'm still asking the question again. The big bus, the Madison Metro bus,
Yes.
diesel bus, will go down Owen
Yes,
Road.
but-
If it-
Yes.
That's the plan right now.
That's the
We're gonna
correct,
drive down that Owen Road,
that's the correct plan.
16 times a day.
yeah, 16 times a day.
And the reason why that was originally chosen, again, was we looked, as a transit commission, we looked at, if we're going to expand service and service hours, we looked at, in terms of the overall routes, we looked at the whole idea of mobility, first and foremost, which is to say throughout Monona, we wanted to create a route where people didn't have to walk more than 3 or 4 blocks max to get to a bus stop, as opposed to walking a mile or a mile and a half to get to a bus stop. So we really tried, and we were obviously chose Owen Road because that's where the bulk of our senior centers are, besides here. So we have it coming by the city center, we have it coming by, or as it stands right now, we also have it coming down Owen Road precisely because that's where the Heritage is and that's where the Meadows is, et cetera. So,
It's kind of at the headway of Owen Road, not down Owen Road. Owen Road is
Correct.
residential. area.
It's right near
Correct.
So
Monona.
why is it coming all the way down, then going over to Maywood, then
because
down?
again, we
because
were
it
trying to
trucks
cover
are-
the whole city
Okay.
within a 3
All
or
right.
4 block.
But is that route negotiable? I mean, is there
Yeah,
more
we're
sensible?
definitely going to be
Yes,
working
yeah,
on
it's
that.
not-
I mean,
It's not finalized, nothing's finalized.
It gives you kind of representing the neighborhood here, the real concern. And I know we're not,
Right,
I'm asking questions now to get information.
Right.
But right now, that is the Metro bus route, the
The Metro fixed route.
20-ton
Yes,
diesel.
yes, that'd be,
And those corners are really tight.
they have driven those routes, so I know they
Right.
actually rode on it.
right,
Yeah.
They could-
right. And again, that's what's been proposed, it's not been finalized at this point. We're listening to feedback and we're
That's what we're trying
paying
to do.
attention. That's what we're trying
Can
to do.
I ask how the process will go then? I mean, let's say a lot of the residential areas here would rather have a route that's a kind of a more direct route to those things and people would still be in a mile. Is the committee going to listen to that and talk about that? The big bus on this route is a concern, I think, to a lot of
Sure.
the residential areas, especially a lot of small kids, all those kinds of things.
Sure,
I know we're here to
so
gather
the
information.
process from here will be that based on feedback from the community, we're anticipating that the Transit Commission will create another survey that will go out probably after the first of the year. Another survey that will be widely distributed, will be available online, will be available as the previous survey was here at the Senior Center and at the library and other places for people to provide feedback to us. So we'll be looking at the survey results and we'll be continuing to meet as a transit commission over the first 2 or 3 months as those survey results come in and obviously, we're listening to the feedback from the community, and I'm, you know, and then ultimately, it's up to the Transit Commission and by the way, residents are always welcome to those Transit Commission meetings, as they are any city meeting that's held. They're welcome to come and provide feedback during the appearance section. And then at some point, the Transit Commission, which by the way, Laura's also a part of, who's here, and Doug Paul is in the audience, he's part of the Transit Commission, and of course the mayor just spoke up a minute ago, if you don't know the mayor. So at some point, the Transit Commission will be making a recommendation to the city council. You know, based on all of the input that we've had and the adjustments that we've made and the survey that goes out, we'll be making recommendations to council, and then the council will make a decision. And again, citizens are always welcome to council meetings and welcome to, you know, to have appearances at a council meeting.
And we'll be sending a postcard with the link.
Yes.
It'll be a postcard with a link on there, so.
So that's the process.
And I think there's 3 questions.
Gentleman in the back row back there, is probably getting tired.
How many people will be on the bus at Owen Road each hour?
The fixed route bus?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We don't know.
they're more paratransit people.
The ridership hasn't been determined yet. That
Wouldn't that be important to know what your ridership is before developing something that's going to be going down your roads 16 times a day?
That's not, we're getting input, and that's what we're kind of
Sure.
looking into.
I-
But I don't know that there's a transit service in the world that decides their ridership before they start the buses. They you know, there's no way to.
Isn't it based on ridership though?
Yeah. No.
Isn't the,
No, any more than the lift is based on ridership.
it's somewhat
Provide
of
the lift
a,
because it's a service.
in my opinion, it's kind of the field of dreams where you build it, they will come. You have to place it there and then gain your community ridership, you know, and you adjust as you go along. We do that all the time with our planning unit and reviewing, you know, how mainline service works. You know, if we implement a new route somewhere, which, you know, for years our service hasn't changed much because it's all established throughout Madison. So when we implement a new route, we review that ridership data over and over and over and take feedback from the community, you know, and with our partner communities like Monona or Middleton, Sun Prairie, we would get back with them and we work together to build the best routing we possibly can. We don't want to be in areas that are duds either. So that's part of a process that, you know, if we go somewhere and then realize this doesn't work quite right, you know, but 3 blocks over, we might gain more, you know, so a bit of it is always going to be trial and error and adjustment as you move forward.
And
I think you were second in.
the gentleman in the blue.
Yeah, this is just related to the most recent comment. I find it really hard to believe the if we build it, you will come approach to bringing a big diesel bus through a community that has not requested that. Like, I think a good example is the Beltline needed more space to get cars going east and west, so as a result, they built the flex lane. Right now, to have a diesel bus go through Monona 16 times without knowing how many people are going to be on it, like that's to me a big waste of money, time, impacting our environment and so on. And I'll get to some other points that I have. But I think that if there was a desire or a need for people in Monona for this bus, then it would be people sitting in this room saying, how do we get a Madison Metro bus to go through our city so we can get rides, instead of hoping that people will get on the bus when we drive through. So that's one thing. The second thing is, at a previous meeting, and I thank all of you for being here. I've been to a lot of these meetings when things are coming into Monona that I'm not so sure about or I disagree with, but I do appreciate these informational meetings. One of the things that was brought up in another meeting was the Madison Metro bus currently goes down Broadway and Monona Drive, which a lot of people in the past 2 info sessions have stated, like, why doesn't why don't we look at the bus stopping on Monona Drive or Broadway, where people can walk from really anywhere in Monona to Monona Drive. Kids walk farther to their bus stop right now to get to school than the 3 to 4 blocks to get to your current route to make it easy for adults to get there. So it was never answered, and so I'm really curious, and this is my question, is why don't we first look at having Madison Metro stop on Monona Drive at a variety of points so people can pick up the bus, take it to the hospital, take it to Westtown Mall, take it to where they need to, and then get back off and then walk back to where they live in Monona, instead of starting with a Madison Metro bus driving through the city when we have no idea if people are going to jump on or not. So why have we never had the bus stop on Monona Drive or Broadway?
Are you
I
talking about the
agree
current
with
route?
that.
Me too.
The current Route 16, we don't stop in Monona because that's outside of our service area.
I understand, but like, we're jumping from
Yeah.
not outside our service area to now let's dive right into the city, versus why don't we try something where we know people actually can access easily, and that's the main thoroughfare, Broadway and Monona Drive. So why wouldn't we start there, and then after membership potentially or ridership goes up, then that would be, in my mind, the next step would be, okay, well, wow, like there's a lot of people in Monona that want to ride the bus. Maybe we do need to look at going into the residential instead of starting there. So I understand it's not contracted yet. Why hasn't the transit committee looked at going on Monona Drive and Broadway first instead of going into the city?
We have, and it was answered at the last session, the Transit Commission is looking at all the options, including Monona Drive and Broadway. And I can say that previously, when we have discussed just Broadway and just Monona Drive with Metro, and this was previous Metro, this was before Metro made a commitment to a regional approach, but previously, just making stops on those two was prohibitively expensive.
Which, like, can you
Like
give us
$500,000 for a couple of bus stops. Literally, $500,000 for a couple of bus stops. So
how-
that's way out of range of what Monona can afford and than you all can afford. So it's a different era. We're looking at it, and so we're not dismissing that as an option. We've never dismissed it as an option. It's all under discussion.
I guess though the perception though from the public is it's hard to believe that it's not being looked at when we look at this first. Does that make sense? So, and it's not discussed in the meetings, it's just stating it's prohibited because of the cost. But now we're in a different era.
We are.
So why wouldn't, like, there would be like proposal 1, 2, and 3 showing the city that there are different costs per option, so then the residents understand, oh, Monona Drive and Broadway is $500,000, so that's why.
Right.
Instead of going through the city, and the city views this is the only way the one they've looked at.
Right.
So that's like, I think the hard part of coming to these meetings is I remember you saying that, Nancy, that it was prohibited, but we don't know the background to that. We need to
Right.
know the background, otherwise,
Right.
for us as residents, we just feel like it's already set. Like, this route might get tweaked a bit,
Right.
but it's already gonna
So
go
how many times
through
do I
the
need to
city.
say it's not set and no decisions are made before you believe?
Plus you gotta
before
look at,
believe us?
yeah,
I mean,
we're taking your input, plus you
Yeah.
gotta we're looking at the whole city as a whole.
right.
So you got buses that can, go through the city campus area down here. There's probably people who would take the bus that are down here in Winnequa, they would have to walk all the way up to Monona Drive and Broadway, which is not the best way either. So as a commission, you have to look at the big picture and not, so that's what we're doing. We're
Right.
in the input right now, we're looking at the big picture of everything.
I
The feedback
understand
we can-
the optics are very different from our seats versus from your seats.
The lady in the maroon.
Hi, I have a couple of questions for the paratransit services. So, first my question is, when we're like, the city obviously is doing this and it's all up in the air, is it an option to contract separately just the paratransit service versus all of the Madison Metro? Okay. And then I also was wondering, would all of Monona be included in accessibility to receive paratransit, or is that based on routes, or is that like able
It
to
would-
in the
it would-
contract, that's
It would depend on what the final route design
So it's
ends up
based on
being.
route, like we couldn't do a separate contract saying, hey, we're like paying for this service, but this is like a really important thing for our community to have access for our like disabled citizens to have transit. Would that be an option, or is that really based on like distance from route?
It's 3/4 of a mile off the established route, with the exception of like the current route that I've seen kind of makes a loop, you know, through Monona. Anything in the middle, like a little donut hole that might be outside of that 3/4 of a mile, would be included if there's routes on both sides.
Okay.
So it would be reaching out 3/4 of a mile beyond the route, and anything in the middle between the two. So the majority of the city, if the route design ended up being what it is now, or what they're looking at, would include paratransit service.
Okay, and then I have another question about accessibility. So if someone has sort of literacy deficiencies or filling out a form would be difficult, can they call a number where someone would help them through that? Okay, and then also, what exactly is that meeting for? So how does someone, you know, do they need to bring like a doctor's note or proof or evidence to prove their disability? Just like to help people sort of access
So
this.
on our application, we, for part 3, we have what we refer to as like the medical information. And that's where you would put your contacts. So if Metro needed more information, we would reach out to those contacts for more information, if that's needed besides the in-person assessment.
So are you getting at those meetings like an ROI, like a release of information, because it should be like HIPAA protected?
So in our application, the last page of our application has our release of information. I know sometimes like the clinics or the hospitals want the patient to sign one of their releases as well. So what I would encourage is anybody who's looking into applying for paratransit, if you're reaching out to like a social worker through the hospital or even through the senior center or a provider of some sort, just ask if they would need you to sign one of their releases as well.
Okay, thank you. And then just for clarification, what are sort of the lift requirements for citizens to utilize that or get access to that? So they just call?
It's the same calling the day before.
Yep, yeah, the 24 hours. Yeah, that's pretty standard.
And just to touch on your literacy question, so we have customer service that's available to assist. We also have a language access line, so if the person needs another language, we do provide help with that as well. And then if they don't have anyone to assist them with communication, but still need to schedule a ride, we do have options where they can email us their ride information too.
Thank you.
Yep.
I've made, my name is Doug Kearney, and I live in Monona. I've had a small business in Monona, and the small business without a storefront in Monona is like, seems to be kind of a joke. They don't realize there are people that have businesses in their homes. But anyway, I've lived in Monona for my entire life. I've gone to all the schools, and I remember when I was 12 years old, I was hauling my lawnmower behind my bicycle to mow lawns for Mrs. Sonnenberg on Pheasant Hill Road, and that's what kind of started my career. But I don't know that I'd be able to continue doing that with my bicycle and a mower. I do not advocate that, but with city buses going down the roads. We have construction vehicles, we have tree trimming people on Owen Road constantly. It's just not a good idea. The question I have, or maybe a couple, is will Monona have any say in the advertising that's going to be on these buses traveling 16 times a day on our residential roads? Do we have a say in the advertising on the buses? I The university, they have buses with beer advertising, and I disapproved of it. I made comment about it years ago. Will we have any say in that, the advertising?
Our marketing department handles all of our advertising. I don't know what the guidelines are. I do know that some of our previous ads that were controversial, they made changes to their processes as to what is allowed and not. I can't answer that question specifically, though.
So it could be beer, it could be Monster drinks, it could be just all kinds of things going down our road advertising.
I can't answer that question. That would be a good question for our marketing manager, who I could put you in touch with if you'd like. He could easily answer those questions. I don't work in that unit.
Are you looking for bus route for the big bus or the small buses?
There currently is a mainline route planning process in the works with Monona. They haven't finalized, and that is big bus for fixed route. And our paratransit service doesn't run a schedule, so it's on demand. So that's only there when there's a ride scheduled for someone. Otherwise, they're not.
I called the bus company that I deal with, that's the 88 company. And I said, I'm going to go down to the senior center in Monona. We're going to go to Monona. It's out of our district.
That's true.
That's the way it is now, yes. If mainline fixed route service is established in Monona, this would bring that 88 paratransit service into Monona that hasn't been here before.
Just how many, do you guys know the current ridership of the Monona Express and the Monona Lift on average?
I do, but I don't have it with me.
We do, he doesn't have it with him. What we can say is that prior to COVID, and I understand, we all understand things have changed since COVID, which is exactly why we're going to do another survey. But pre-COVID, it was at its highest level it had ever been in Monona for the Express. For the Express, I don't know about in terms of the Lift, but certainly in terms of the
Best guess,
Express.
understanding like you don't have those numbers in front of you.
Currently, the Express is probably 10 riders.
Okay.
The Lyft is probably about 15 rides per day.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. How many riders for the Express?
10
10
That's
per
good.
day?
per day.
That's rides, that's not riders. That's.
Oh, it'd be 20.
Right.
So 220 was before COVID, 10 rides a day?
I think he's like best guess current.
Current.
His best
Current.
estimate.
It's about 40 before COVID.
And we're acknowledging the number of people working from home now has changed dramatically as well.
Correct, it's one of the reasons why we're doing the survey.
But I think the survey is very different than actually keeping track of ridership. The survey,
We have numbers every month. We have the numbers every month. And they're published in the minutes and in the agenda for every single transit commission meeting. So if you want to go to the city's website, they're there. It's just that we don't have them right in front of us.
well, I was planning on going to the transit meeting last week, but it got canceled out of the blue. Wasn't there, so
It got
when is
canceled because we decided that it would make sense to finish these information sessions before we get back together again, and because this guy is working 2 jobs in the middle of budget season right now, so we thought we'd give him a night off.
That's great, as long as
Yeah.
we know
Yeah.
prior to it, right? I mean, I didn't know when that came out. So when is the next transit meeting?
They should put it on the website. It was canceled. I thought it was Friday.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
Right.
be informed. So when is the
Right.
next transit meeting?
Next transit is December 14th at City Hall at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And
I appreciate all your work. I mean,
Yeah,
this is why we're
yeah,
here, right?
yeah,
To talk and
absolutely.
share.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I thought it had been posted at least 3 or 4 days before the event that we were going to cancel it, because we wanted to listen first.
Is there a way you can make it a little bit easier to get information to us about the meetings and things like that? Or, I haven't looked, but I don't know how easy it, we have looked actually, and it seems difficult.
So there's an alert system that you can sign up for on the city's website. And I'm sure that Diane, among other people, and the rest of the senior staff would be happy to help people sign up for that. And you can sign up for specific alerts, general alerts from the city, or you can sign up for specific alerts around particular departments. But there's an alert system. And the homepage always has a listing of the upcoming meetings of that week. As well, so you don't have to go fishing for it, and if a meeting is canceled, that's where it's posted as well. That would be the easiest way. And I know that Diane's always here, as are the rest of the staff and volunteers that work here at the senior center. They're all rock stars, and I know that they always have the schedule too, so, you know, if the website is too difficult for some reason, or the alert system is too difficult, you could probably just place a phone call here and they'd tell you exactly when the next meeting is, but there is an alert system to make it automatic.
Do you have paratransit questions first?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, thank you. My name is Mary Gorman, and I've been using both Madison Paratransit and Monona Lyft for 4 or 5 years now. Madison Paratransit longer than that. And I'm living at Monona Hills, and there's several people I know about, probably other people I don't know about, who would want paratransit to the door. Are you going to have I'm going to call it fixed route, coming down Owen Road, plus several paratransits going to the Monona Hills property, picking up people when they've set their own time the day before? Plus, I want to say one more thing. Across on Owen Road, Slindy Realty is planning 2 great big apartments. A lot more car traffic coming with that, I'm sure. So, and that was a concern alone, adding car traffic for people who have no vision and people who are afraid to walk in the winter, and that might not be eligible for paratransit. But I'm going to talk further about eligibility because I notice some people walk very stiffly because they're frightened, even before winter comes. So they're going to be very dependent on the ride, but that alone might not qualify them. That fear of walking and the stiffness is causing sciatica, anything else that can happen in the body. So so I've got a couple things that I'm concerned about. That paratransit serving Monona, will it still be because of these fixed routes? Could it be door to door? Still be? And several people calling.
Fixed routes door to door?
No, paratransit is door to door.
Okay.
Paratransit is door to
Even
door.
with these fixed routes on Owen Road, they would be.
Not right now, it's not.
We don't provide service in Monona at this point.
That's right.
Right.
Only at certain stops.
There's some, because of the Madison-Monona border on Monona Drive, there are some properties that are in the city of Madison on Monona Drive. So if someone is eligible that lives in Monona, let's say they live near that, I can't think of the street names. I know the street names of Madison all over the place, but Monona, yeah, Acacia in there.
Tompkins,
Yeah, there's some little parts of Madison that jut out right up to Monona Drive, and I know there was a restaurant there. People would schedule their rides at that restaurant address and either get a ride from that address into Monona or whatever means. So there are some, it appears that people are getting paratransit service to Monona, but that address is actually in Madison in our service area.
And I'm one of those people. I've been going 2 blocks in the winter and summer to catch Madison Paratransit from Monona Hills. And the biggest concern is winter. Because I don't have my balance, I have a walker. That's what I have for my balance. So I just want you to know I've been doing that for 4 or 5 years. And at 76 years old, I'm becoming more and more concerned about doing that.
So that's a great point. If you're currently doing that, if the service comes to Monona, we would then come to your door rather than
Right.
having to go to that restaurant address that's in Madison.
That's my first question.
Yeah.
Are you serving people?
Yeah,
And the
it-
service coming means transit, paratransit, and the big metro bus,
Correct.
not one or the other.
Correct.
They come together.
And who pays for the roads on the side when the metro ruins them?
City pays for it.
The city pays for roads.
Taxpayers.
And what does that cost compare to the cost of stops on Monona Road and Broadway?
We wouldn't have
Wait,
those now.
yeah, they don't have those. They don't have those.
Because if those costs of rebuilding those roads that have been very quiet and have had very little fixing, and clearly a metro bus will cause damage. So those costs to rebuild those roads, and who in Monona are going to be able to pay the extra prices for their houses.
So
And the
what,
road
just
can-
so we're clear, the hope, as was just pointed out earlier, we don't know if we were to implement, and there's no way to know, we don't have a crystal ball, but we don't know if we were to implement a route similar to the route that's been proposed, or even a smaller route that's been proposed in Monona. We don't know what the ridership would be. The hope would be, again, because we do know that there's been people that have expressed a need. We're still getting feedback all the time, just like we're hearing feedback now. We're getting feedback pro and con to everything that's been floated. And our hope would be that because mass transit, Madison Metro is more available in Monona, is more accessible in Monona, not Lyft, which would be obviously more accessible too, but or the equivalent of paratransit, more accessible than Lyft. But the regular Monona Express route, the hope would be that because more people are utilizing the buses in Monona, the metro buses in Monona, than currently use Monona Express, that there would be a reduction in the number of cars. Because people would be choosing to, we hear from people that are interested in more express service with more of a mass transit program, that part of the reason is because the small number of routes that are run now by express don't meet their needs. Their work schedule is different, or, I've heard from numerous parents that have kids in the high school that think, oh my God, my daughter would be or my son would be jumping on Madison Metro to go downtown all the time. It would be great. I wouldn't have to drive in downtown. So the idea is that in terms of wear and tear on the roads, that you'd have less cars because more people are using mass transit.
If the bus was full.
Yeah.
If there was nobody on the bus, then it's nothing.
Well, I don't know that it'd have to be full, that's 40 or 50 people, but yes, there's certainly,
That's
but
easily-
yeah, I'm just saying, it's a balancing act, and like anything else, we don't know until we try it and promote it.
Yeah, but once it's instituted.
Any other paratransit?
It seems like with the temporary access to this system, is there an extension you can get? If you've got, it seems like that process is quite lengthy to get that approval. What about getting an extension for it?
So if, let's say you were given temporary and more time is needed, you can always reach out to us and just let us know, and then we can extend it that way.
So it's a simpler process then?
For temporary.
Yeah, for the temporary, if more time is needed than was thought of initially.
And I'm just gonna,
Hang on.
Just a kudos to Laura. The eligibility process is actually fairly speedy. Laura gets an application, she reviews it, we schedule the in-person assessment, we get the person there, and then it's really not a huge invasive process. The background to it and the reasoning for it is to ensure that people aren't taking advantage of the paratransit system that don't need it. So that's why all that is in place. But we've got a fairly speedy process to get everybody on and riding as quick as possible.
And they're recording, I assume, federal guidelines, and that's dictating most of this stuff. We don't get federal money. You guys are federal, so you're subject to the federal laws.
We got lots of regulations we have to follow.
This, for eligibility, are you talking the federal?
Our eligibility processes, yes, and just all the other ADA paratransit guidelines that we're regulated to follow. That all comes into play with our service.
Yep.
Hi, you mentioned that like the long-term disability is a 3-year renewal. Is there like reminders sent out to people when that time comes? I assume?
So when the individual receives their determination letter, excuse me, it would note the eligibility end date in the letter. They also receive an ADA eligibility card that has that noted as well. And then in regards to what we call recertification, which would be that 3-year renewal, we would reach out probably, I think it's like a good couple of months before November, December. Is kind of when we start planning everything. But we would reach out to the individual by mail and say, hey, just a reminder, at the end of March, your recertification will expire. Here's the process that you would need to take for renewal.
One thing that kind of surprised me years later after using Madison Paratransit is that I could be eligible once I'm approved in Janesville. So I'm curious, what other cities or what is the network that people could have?
So, and it's not just for Janesville, but when a paratransit customer is traveling to another city or another state, they can reach out to us and let us know, and we can help them establish what's called visitor eligibility. So when they're traveling, let's say they went to Milwaukee, we can reach out to MCTS and let them know when the person would be arriving in their area and have them established as a visitor so that they can utilize that service while they're there.
If there's somebody behind you.
Yep. Yep.
I've got several questions about the paratransit, the door-to-door system. And is there an income level maximum that you have to qualify?
We don't look at income guidelines.
Because do you have to be on Medicaid?
No. You don't have to be on Medicaid, and there's no income level that we look at.
Well, I nicely had that told me from something else for a different system, and very nicely the way they told me there was that you had to be on Medicaid or qualify for Medicaid was by ignoring the question, not answering the question, demanding a full restitution of my whole medical history, everything, and then just ignoring the question, not even returning phone calls, and that kind of thing. So that was their hint, and then they neatly said something that, you had to qualify for Medicaid on some other guy's question, and that told me That's why I can't get any answers out of you. And the other thing is, so, and do you need a prescription, a medical prescription to qualify?
No, you do not.
Nope.
Explain more.
Like a doctor's
The only
note?
question is,
What
they went out
makes
there.
someone eligible? I think there's a lot of questions about that.
So there's components to eligibility such as the person might have a cognitive impairment or
Now,
Oh,
your mic is not working.
I'm sorry.
I think it's
I
tilted
hear
towards
every
Okay.
sixth word.
Maybe move closer. I don't know.
I
Is this audio going
Just
through the
speak closer to
speakers
the-
or?
Just speak closer to the mic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So to answer your questions, you don't have to be on Medicaid. You don't have to be, have a certain income, guidelines to, apply or become eligible for paratransit. Some of the, eligibility, it looks at, paratransit is a service for individuals with disabilities who can't use the fixed route bus. So whether they have a cognitive impairment, a visual impairment, the impairment might be physical, they can reach out to us and go through the application process to apply.
Do you have to have a doctor say it?
You don't have to have a doctor say it. The only thing that we would ask for is on the application, part 3, it asks you to list 2 professionals that Metro could reach out to if more information is needed. So like, they can be examples of a social worker, a doctor, a chiropractor, a therapist, a PT or OT. It doesn't, you don't have to bring a doctor's note with you to say, this is why I need paratransit.
And one other thing.
Yep.
You're talking about taking Madison's paratransit thing and expanding it into Monona. Well, what about the Milwaukee area? The whole Milwaukee area has that paratransit thing already. And they are phasing it out so that it goes out of existence by June of next year.
Are you talking about Milwaukee County?
The whole, the Milwaukee area.
Milwaukee County Transit encompasses the entire county of Milwaukee County, so there's communities included in that service area. That's different than Metro Transit. We're not a county-wide service provider.
They're saying they're canceling it.
They can't cancel it. I don't know who's saying that, but they're
Well, talk
federally.
to your damn reporters on the news.
They're maybe canceling bus routes because of driver shortages, but we are all federally funded public transit agencies are required by federal law to provide paratransit service with their fixed route service. It's not an option for anyone. So we build it the best we can to provide the best service we can to the people that need it most. And as far as eligibility is concerned, a lot of what the assessment process is making a determination if the person needs, or I shouldn't say needs was the wrong word. Making a determination about the ability for the person to get to a fixed route bus stop, to wait at a fixed route bus stop, to ride the fixed route bus safely. So if someone, like we do another eligibility type, like you were talking about winter weather, you know, certain individuals may need wintertime eligibility. So we'll do a seasonal thing, you know, where you're eligible in the wintertime because of our wonderful Wisconsin winters here. You know, and so there are options there to make make it work best for people that need the service. So it really is a fairly easy process, and there isn't a huge amount of evaluation, but we're just looking at the person's ability to get to and utilize fixed route. If that's not possible, you're eligible. I hope that helps kind of clarify some of those eligibility standards.
So if there's, I'm going to suggest in the interest of time, because we've gone through an hour here, and we do have some people that want to speak, if you still want to speak, if your questions haven't been, but unless you have questions, still have questions, I'd like to go to those people that, yeah.
I have a question. Do you know what the rate is of denial for your current residents that have applied for paratransit? Like,
We haven't really had any.
okay, so it's like 100% typically of people who apply.
It's more of just a verification process that somebody isn't taking advantage of the service, because it is more expensive to operate a paratransit ride than it is a fixed route ride. So it helps prevent people using the service that are trying to out of the convenience of door to door, or for whatever reason. We want to make sure that it's there for the people that need it and not abused. So the eligibility process, really, we don't have a lot of, Laura does them all, and she can't think of a denial, so.
Questions, yeah.
Oh, I think she was pointing to you.
I just wanted to ask if Metro is approved, if you guys are approved to do what you're proposing, will that cancel out the lift, or will we have a bus to go and
What are you?
It's one or the other. If the paratransit and Madison Metro go hand in hand, and so if so if we went with Madison Metro for our transit service, then we would also be going with paratransit, so the lift and the express would go away.
Thank you.
Question?
Yeah, I have a question. I have a quick comment first. Again, appreciate all your work. I think about what I've seen on TV when people come to meetings like this and they're escorted outside of the police. I think that although we may disagree on ideas, I think that it's a respectful communication and we're asking questions that are important. So thanks for holding this, and also I think it's not anything about any of you, it's just the idea or the opportunity.
Sure.
My question is regarding safety. The city council just recently passed, or I would say 6 months ago, putting in a sidewalk all along Winnequa from Bridge Road to Maywood Road. One of the biggest parts that they talked about was safety and people being able to walk safely on Winnequa. There was many open sessions like this. People spoke, I spoke, there was people for it and against it. Obviously, in the end, the sidewalk was passed by the city council and the sidewalk is now there. We'll see how everything goes. It was a process and I appreciate the process. So when we are now looking at, and that was based off the bike pedestrian study that was worked on prior to. My question and concern is the safety of individuals walking on these residential streets that do not have sidewalks. We talked a lot about the sidewalks being so essential for the safety of Winnequa. And for people that want to walk on Winnequa or ride their bikes on Winnequa, that we needed to have the sidewalks put in, much to the chagrin of many individuals. Now we're talking about putting in huge buses coming down many streets, including Owen, Maywood, Winnequa, the other part closer to the lake, and maybe some other areas, I'm not sure. Has the transit committee or this committee talked at all with the bike pedestrian committee, or have you reflected upon the outcome of their study that they did to make sure that when we're putting in or allowing a bus to go down Owen, for example, is Owen a safe street? Or is Maywood a safe street for a bus that large when we have kids coming from Winnequa? And that was a big deal, right? We wanted a sidewalk so kids could walk from their house down Winnequa to Maywood, up to Winnequa to get to school. And now, less than a year later, we're talking about putting in a bus that goes down Owen that is not a wide street. We're talking about going down Maywood that has kids going down it all the time and other parts. And I'm just curious, because that was the foundation of the council, was the bike pedestrian committee came up with this and this is what we're going to do. I remember one alder person saying, if you don't like it, that's fine, vote me out, but this is what's right. So now we're to the point of, okay, things have changed. Now we want to have a bus go through our city, but there aren't sidewalks, and the safety of not just our kids, but also anyone walking on these streets is in jeopardy, because now 5 p.m. to 12 p.m. to midnight, there's a bus going through our city when it's dark out. I'd like to know, like, what has been talked about regarding that the pedestrian bike committee and the outcome of that.
So first of all, the regular Madison Metro route that goes through the city of Monona does not go until midnight, it goes until 9 p.m. So just to be clear.
That's good, because that's
what he was saying with paratransit.
Our service hours
Right.
is the entire system wide. There's variables between routes as to when they end and what a partner community may, Middleton, the Middleton route I think is done around 10 o'clock, but our last route of the night runs, across east to west Madison until 11:30 or midnight.
But I wouldn't feel safe walking it from 4:30 right now with it being dark to 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. with buses going down these streets with snow and so on. So
Understood, and we are, again, the route is not finalized, we're continuing to look at it. We certainly, have, as much as possible, we'd like to, utilize the streets that do have sidewalks. But let me just speak for a second to Madison Metro safety record, which is to say, we asked Madison Metro for their safety record. And I believe there were over a 3-year period, there were 9 instances, over a 3-year period. And I think all but 2 were individuals that were on the bus.
But Nancy,
that felt that, let me just finish. I'm not saying that makes it perfect. I'm not saying that what you're suggesting isn't something that we need to continue to look at, and we will.
But
again, we're continuing to look at the route, and we're continuing to look at the safety issues, but that's a new piece of information I'm just sharing with everyone, that we are, based on feedback, we're, again, doubling back on the safety issue to look at it, and that's the data Madison Metro provided us. It was 9 instances over 3 years, and all but 2 of those were instances where people were on the bus and fell off the seat or fell off, or were hanging onto a rail. When it started back up again, they weren't even outside or on the street or whatever. So I'm not saying it makes it perfect. I'm just saying.
I understand that, but I'm going to just counterpoint that is that there were no accidents on Winnequa for 5 years, except for one that occurred on Bridge during the study. And the city council members, as well as people, said, are we going to wait until there's that one to put in the sidewalk? Right?
Yep.
So it's like picking the data is really important to the public, because that was the city council's argument, was are we going to wait till one person gets hurt because Winnequa has been safe for the last 5 years or more?
Right.
So now to hear you say Madison has a safety, a good safety record, that's great. I would hope they would.
Right.
But that doesn't take away the fact that people still have a chance or an opportunity to be injured on these streets that are not well lit, that are narrow, do not have a sidewalk. So the council has to, I believe, you have to, if you're going to argue for sidewalks on Winnequa, you've got to be able to be consistent for other streets when you're trying to push or potentially adopt another thing that's going to impact the safety. You can't pick and choose.
I'm not arguing that at all. We are. And we are. I appreciate the comment. We are. We're continuing to look at it, and we're continuing to, so
I would hope
Just
then that
know
we would really
we
look
are,
at that.
again, that we're looking at it. We're looking at a whole variety of factors, and sidewalks versus non-sidewalks, and the width of streets and all of that is something that the Transit Commission has taken into account, and we will continue to take it into account as we move forward.
Thank you.
I hear you.
That-
I
I mean,
do
that's-
hear you, and I appreciate it.
That's my question. And again, I appreciate your
Yep.
work. It's not
Yep.
easy, but I
Yep.
do think that, you know, the fake news that this woman shared about what she had heard,
Right.
that's important that she got that out and got
Yep.
that cleared.
Yeah,
It's important that things that impact me and the rest, like, we have an
Absolutely.
opportunity, so thank you. In the
Yep.
end, am I gonna be able to still live in Monona with sidewalks on Winnequa? Yes, but I'm glad that I'm able to come and talk and
absolutely.
share my concerns.
And exactly why we're
And-
here, and we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Question.
have a question and a comment. How many paratransit buses will there be in Monona at any one given time?
It's completely variable by who is requesting rides.
So we could have multiple paratransit buses in Monona along with the metro system.
But it's really, really hard to say because, I mean, even in Madison or our current service area, that's all requested daily. There's no, you know, like bus that comes every day, unless a person is requesting it every day. And remember that these are vehicles that are the size of a big van. So they're not as invasive as the 40-foot transit, heavy transit bus. So the impact to traffic and,
But there could be multiple.
yeah, yeah.
In the same way that there's multiple Ubers and there's multiple Amazon Prime buses and there's multiple UPS buses that we know at any one time, it's more comparison to that than anything else. Because
They're in and out and gone.
Right.
You know, they're barely noticeable.
So I'd like to go, again, I really want to give people an opportunity to speak unless you have a specific
Yeah,
question.
I think I slowed it before, please. I do have a comment though. And I've listed there as one that wanted to speak.
Okay?
As far as the safety, what David may be referring to is, have any studies been looked at or have people looked at the history of the roads that the buses are going to be traveling, and are those roads safe? My road, I've had four separate incidences with accidents.
Right.
And 2 vehicles that have been totaled, parked. My vehicle's parked, and it's all been recorded. It's not a safe road.
Right. I appreciate what, you're Doug, correct?
Yes, and
Okay.
that's my last.
Doug, noted. Again,
Good.
we're just trying to listen today, and we appreciate that.
Yep.
You know, I will say that in doing that, just so people know, in doing the route, this was something that was discussed among all the staff, including our police department and our fire department. Judy, would you like to speak? Go ahead.
Well, I'm pretty familiar with our transit system currently and have been involved in it for a long time. Rode the express for 14 years with my husband. I had a mother-in-law who was 97 years old who rode the lift all the time to go to her hair appointment, come to the center, go to the stores to shop, go to her appointments. And she also is on the video that has been on the news, or on our local station. Concerns are, I am concerned that the lift did not require medical, any information. I'm of age, can I ride this bus without having to go through the medical process? I understand, thank you very much for Madison for coming in, but I'm concerned that the local shopping is going to be a problem for many individuals, which means the elderly has difficulty getting to our local Southtown Mall, food stores, Menards, anything local. So I'm concerned that it's going to be a timely issue, even for the people that come here to the Monona Senior Center to be on a committee, be on a event here. I'm just concerned that timeliness is going to be a real big issue for all of us. And I'm saying right now, physically, I'm able to drive and do my own thing. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to ride a bus to an event with a group of people. So I'm concerned about several pieces of this, not just one. The other question is, are there still options available besides Madison? I'm not trying to cut it off, but I am trying to ask that question.
Options. Great. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we're just, again, I appreciate both of those. We're recording all of this. Again, this is more of an appearance time when we're really trying to listen. That's why we're asking for questions first. So I appreciate you mentioning both of those things. I also have Jim and Karen Roth.
Yeah. Hi. I moved to, my name is Karen Roth. I moved to Monona in 1997. Liked the residential area, the parks, the lakes, the channels, it's all there. My concern with this, and I love Monona, and thanks for holding these meetings, by the way. But my concern is the corridor in which the buses come down Owen to Maywood to Nichols. I have a job where I drive, so I would be on that route there. I drive these roads every day, you know, coming out. And there's so many residential people in that little corner here, this little piece of land, which is really the heart of Monona, right here. And you have all these people coming up to Monona Drive. That's where everything is. Our post office, Ken's. So there's a lot of traffic coming out. We can't go the other way because of the lake. So we're kind of landlocked here. So there's a lot of traffic going out. I get up in the morning, leave about 7:30, and there's runners, there's bikers, there's senior citizens walking. It's wonderful. There's parks, there's the library. It's wonderful. We have marathons through that corridor. It's wonderful. I find, even with just my car, I have to go around people. There's speed bumps and the humps in different areas, fine, slowing people down. But even just driving, you have to really watch it. And you're slowed down by pedestrians, strollers, speed bumps, everything. I can't imagine making that a bus route. I find that the safety of the children, the efficiency of it wouldn't be there. I can't imagine it. I think everybody that needs a bus should get it, absolutely. And we're landlocked here, and we back right up to Madison, where all those services are. My hope is that we can provide the services for people that's closer to Madison, where they can access that whenever they like. And hopefully the paratransit, where you go right to the door, that should be available. I have a 94-year-old mother. I understand how important that is. As she is assisted, she can't walk. So I think we have to cater to everybody, but there's reasons why people are on this side close to the lake and they need to get out. It just doesn't make any sense for me, safety-wise or efficiency-wise, for that route. That's my biggest concern. I think Broadway's great, Monona Drive great, Stoughton Road probably. I'm a little nervous about that because I think the traffic there is so fast and there's so many cars. So I avoid Stoughton Road at all costs, but that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I have Dave.
I was going to say quickly, Dave Whitty, I live at 5802 Winnequa, so I'm right on the corner of Owen and Winnequa. So this impacts me directly, so I'm not going to be open, but I think it impacts the whole city. So even if it wasn't on Owen and Winnequa, I would still be here. I grew up in Monona, born and raised, graduated from Monona Grove, left for a while, came back 3 years ago, and I have 3 girls and my wife who and we love living here in Monona. I think what I've found though, and I think what I was maybe a bit surprised is, and I appreciate these info sessions, and Nancy, I know you laid out like nothing would happen until the January of 2024. I think that the most important thing is continuing to have these sessions and the info and the transparency, because I know the people that I talk to in Monona is that things are already determined, and I know we say it's not, but that's the optics and the belief out there that this is already a done deal, but we're going to kind of go through the motions and let the public talk, but we're already moving forward. And I'm just saying that because if I used to want to be in your shoes. I used to want to be an alder person or run for school board, but I don't like what I hear about how things are already predetermined, so I don't want to be part of that club. So I really hope that the transparency continues on, because I want to be a proud Monona resident that believes that my voice is heard and that people's voices are heard, and it's not just a survey, because I think surveys are very difficult to judge. So thanks for all your work, and thanks again for holding this. I look forward to the process.
Sure. Let me just say quickly, Dave, to that, even though I promised I wasn't going to respond. First of all, there's an election coming up, so should you want to change your mind and run for council, I would encourage you to do so. And second, we understand, as I said, I understand the perception may be that that's the case, but let me just say that it's like I said, how many times do I have to say it? I'm going to keep saying it. It's not decided any more than when it was decided before we started, and we took in, and so to the extent that there are people peddling that somehow it's this club that we make decisions behind closed doors, it just doesn't happen. It would be illegal for us to do that, among other things. We don't make decisions that way. All of our meetings are open to the public, and we are fully transparent, so anything that you're hearing to the contrary just isn't, it's not accurate. And you're welcome to, I hope you know, as we have done before over Winnequa and other things, you're welcome to reach out to us anytime.
And
I'm glad you're here.
I appreciate that. I want to say that every single alder person came to my house along with my neighbors to look at Winnequa Road and how it was impacted. The mayor came, the city engineer, so they have been responsive, and I have attended 2 of the 3 of these info sessions, so I'm very appreciative, and obviously I enjoy being a part of the process, and I like to be informed, but I also want to be honest about this is what's out there, so let's change that, right? Let's change the narrative, and you're right, I could run, and trust me, I've thought about it, but we'll see what happens.
Right. But help us dissuade the reality that it's not there too, because, like, Monona is not immune to the misinformation that gets passed around, right? That we're happening on a national level. So that's Dave. The last appearance I have here is from Tricia.
Hi, that's me. My name is Tricia, and I live here in Monona for over 10 years on Wildhaven. I very much love this community and have loved being a member of it. I'd like to acknowledge that I am speaking from a place of privilege as an able-bodied resident, as a resident who lives in a dual-income household with 2 vehicles. I have a lot of privilege. And I just want to think about, when we're making decisions as a community, who are we centering in our choices? And I really think for transit, our decisions should be centered around those with disabilities. Who might not be able to drive a vehicle, who might not be able to walk a mile to a bus stop. I walked here from my house. And I think that paratransit is doing a lot of wonderful things in Madison. I am concerned that there would be holes in our little tiny community of Monona, and that if I was temporarily disabled, I couldn't just call and get a ride to the grocery store. I might have to wait up to 20 days, not because Madison is big or bad, because maybe they're busy, maybe someone's on vacation. And in that time, if I don't have the money to Uber to things, I might not be able to get my groceries. I might not be able to afford those things. I think our service of Lyft right now is helping some people. And for me personally, if I had to get rid of all busing services just to provide financial support for Lyft, that would be worth it. I think I would be happy to spend my tax dollars, even though it doesn't benefit me right now. And I also think after those with disabilities, we have to think about children, because I live in Wild Haven, I can walk here. The Monona School District did a study based on research and evidence, and they determined that my daughter is eligible to take a bus because it is not safe already for her to walk on Wild Haven. So she will be taking a bus until she is a freshman in high school. And I think there's something really important that we think about. Can our children access things like our beautiful pool, our wonderful library, and gain independence and access these things? There's that whole corridor that there's no safe way for us, our children, to cross Winnequa already. I know there's works and being sidewalks, but we're not there yet. And as we make decisions to bring in buses potentially, we have to say, where are we as a city, and are we there yet? And then lastly, I think about then our able-bodied citizens, where it would be nice, it would be great for our environment if we don't have to drive as much. And so I think it's thinking about that as we create a contract. And, you know, Madison obviously has their own rules and agendas, but we don't have to say that that fits us. And I guess that's just my 2 cents. And I want to say I still respect what you're all doing. I don't envy you. And I hope that you're just like listening to the community and really thinking about who do we center in our decisions. It might not be the majority that we need to center. It might be the most. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
I just want to tell you on one short thing. When you ride Monona Lift, it costs $3 round trip here in Monona, Wisconsin, or where they travel outside of Monona. When you take the paratransit, the total is $325 one way, $325 return.
Right.
$6, whatever that is. In Monona for the disabled, that to go to like Metro Market to do grocery shopping, that's might be all their budget can handle. Not to other places that Monona Lift can take you to for a less fee than the paratransit.
Sure.
However, the paratransit is good on weekends if anybody should want to go outside of Monona.
Right, and good, obviously, beyond the lake, right? If you wanted to go to Middleton, or if you needed to do something on the weekend, that would be, or somebody mentioned the last session, you know, they have parents at the Heritage and the geriatric centers are at American Family, 2 of the geriatric centers are American Family in Fitchburg, and so it costs her $70 round trip for an Uber, or $120 if she rents a car, because the Monona Lift doesn't go to either place. And so, you know, so with that, we'll be here. We're going to close the session. I want to thank everybody for coming and for your feedback again. We're taping this. As you can see, there's a camera in the back. Believe me, those of us that are on City Council, we're not only hopefully here, but we're also watching YouTube all the time, rerunning all the time. So again, thank you for input. Thank you for coming. Thank you to Madison Metro for coming. Thank you to the Senior Center and Diane and her staff. Thank you to the Mayor. Mayor, would you like to say anything with the recorder?
I have a
Okay, great. The Mayor would like to say a couple of things.
Just kind of a variety of things. Number one, I don't know how many of you are aware that Madison Metro used to drive through Monona. I took it down to campus for several years before we ended the service back in the late 80s. And it was like, I think it was 2 or 3 times an hour. It wasn't once an hour. In fact, there were 2 routes from Monona. In terms of the stopping on Monona Drive and Broadway, part of this proposal is also that Metro would open their doors on Monona Drive and Broadway. However, they are not, my understanding is they are not the current routes. They're going to be different routes. Right now, the route goes down Broadway, goes into campus or downtown. It won't anymore. It's going to go over to Park Street. Southwest is what it looks like to me.
There's a couple of routes. The current 16, which goes east to south, those 2 transfer points that goes Monona Drive to Broadway. And then there is a Dutch Mill to campus route as well that's served Broadway. It's gonna be different, but
It's going to be
the
different
same.
than what it is now. But they will be opening, you could get on at, say, Owen Road and ride down at least to the corner of Monona Drive and Broadway and walk over to Metro Market. It's something. We have a lot of businesses who are interested in having a bus for their workers to take here because they would rather not drive, that kind of thing. I'm trying to think, there was one other thing. I guess it is true that a lot of people have mentioned just Broadway and Monona Drive, but for people who live here, it's not practical to expect someone to walk a mile at 7 every morning to get on a bus to go to work. I just don't think, I think that's great if you live near there. And I guess the other thing is more equity. I know we're concerned about seniors and disabled, but there's also equity involved in people who live here who can't afford to drive downtown every day. It's expensive to park a car downtown. We're building some new apartment buildings along Monona Drive and Broadway. Some of those will be more affordable housing. Those people are going to need bus service. So there's a lot we're considering. And unfortunately, we can't do everything. We can't keep the parts we like about what we have and also have Madison Metro. It's one or the other, and we have limited money available to put towards this. So we're trying to find the best route that helps the most people.